Well, since the ceasefire last night, i24 News has today headed over to some of those communities near the Israeli-Gaza border to find out how they're coping. Ashdod is one of those communities where our correspondent Mary McAuliffe is live for us now. Mary, is it safe to say that today the residents of Ashdod are relieved, or are they telling you otherwise if there's mixed feelings possibly on the ground there?
Definitely mixed feelings that we're hearing from some of the residents here, but overall the sense is relief. This is the main message. This is what all the residents who have spoken to us today, this is what they leave with, that thank God this latest round is over, but also expressing fears that it could once again spring up again and see this escalation of violence between Israel and the Gaza groups and see their communities once again targeted. We often see the communities right on the southern border targeted harshly when there is this escalation of violence, seeing massive rocket barrages flown against them. Ashdod was included in those latest communities this round, and they did a number of rockets that were fired at them, some 15 to 20 rockets. All were intercepted or allowed to land in open areas, so there was no real damage or injuries caused here. But we did talk to some of the residents to see how they are faring after this latest round. Let's listen to what they had to say.
I'm a little scared, but it helps me that Mom and Dad are here.
The insecurity drives us crazy. The feeling is very difficult. A feeling of helplessness, not knowing what will happen tomorrow, what to do with the children, when to go out, even grocery shopping is a problem. I think we all need a psychologist, we all need therapy. The feeling is terrible, it's difficult. It doesn't pass with a click of a button.
Mary, are the residents also telling you that this brings back a lot of memories for them? Just a little over a year ago, they found themselves in a very similar situation back in May last year, running to shelters, rockets flying overhead, having to console their children, not knowing what to tell them. Tell us more about what they're also saying.
So we talked to a few parents who expressed these kinds of lines, saying that once again with their children, they're put into these situations for the children not sleeping throughout the night, or having to go into rocket shelters, or just being generally disturbed by this disturbance to their routine that was seen here. But most of all, they're not really comparing it as much to May. Of course, there is this small sense from some of the parents, but really the scale of what happened in the past 2 days was nothing compared to what happened last May in terms of the damage done to Israeli communities, in terms of the injuries, the deaths to Israeli civilians. This round, we didn't see anything like that. Of course, it's a very different situation here in Ashdod than it was in many communities that are closer to the border. Also, of course, on the other side in the Gaza Strip here in Ashdod, it has appeared relatively unscathed, which is not the same to say last year where there were a number of rockets also fired at this community. So here, the residents are seeming to get on with their life and just hoping that it doesn't happen again, especially hoping it's not going to become a routine that every summer they have these few days where they have to be ducking into bomb shelters throughout the night as rockets are fired at them.
Mary McAuliffe, thank you so much. Our correspondent there stationed in Ashdod in Israel for us. Well, our Pierre Chandler is also bringing us the very latest live updates from the community of Nahal Oz in Israel. Pierre, Israel says it's lifted all of its security restrictions since the ceasefire last night. What's the security situation there like today on the ground?
There's a sense of normalcy sinking in gradually. Everything is open, shops are open, railways open, bus transportation is open, work is open, everything finally comes back to a routine, and that's already since 12 a.m. local time. People are returning to those communities because communities like Nahal Oz are just 1,000 feet away from the border, and they're not so protected by the Iron Dome anti-rocket missile system, simply because here a kibbutz or a community village can be targeted by mortar fire, and Iron Dome is incapable of neutralizing mortar fire. That goes too fast. And so we've seen the fields around us which have been poked by mortar fire. We've seen tails of mortar shells, and that shows that in a sense those kibbutz who are really adjacent to the border are hardened and have been really hard targeted by this round of hostilities, like in previous round of hostilities. So there is a sense of relief. There's also a sense of pride, because for first time in quite a few years, Israel has taken the initiative, but not just the initiative in terms of operational activities, but also in terms of public diplomacy. Like, for instance, when the Palestinians in Gaza have accused Israel of killing children, Israel immediately reacted with pictures showing that rockets simply failed their targets and fell into the Gaza Strip. That also gives the Israelis a sense that this round of hostility and the preemptive hostilities that Israel has waged against Islamic Jihad, in a sense, is maybe the best recipe to try and break this circle of violence that has been going on for the past 20 years.
Thank you, Piero Closhendler, the i24 News correspondent from Nahal Oz in Israel.